Are you ready to expand your life and reality? Join us for the next hour with Jamie Bates as she shares life-changing thoughts, techniques, and awarenesses to help you expand your reality.
Hello and welcome. I am Jamie Bates, consciousness facilitator and expander of realities. My mission with my radio show is to create greater awareness of what is possible and to expand you beyond the limitations of this reality. I am grateful that you are joining me today. So today I would like to talk to you about something that recently occurred in my world and hopefully expand on how you can deal with what you know. So as you may hear, if you listen to the show often, I do have a bit of a cold, so I'm hoping to kind of just muscle through today's show without a lot of incident, and hopefully my cough drop in my mouth isn't going to bother too much. So, all right, awesome. So today I want to talk to you about a recent experience I had, and really looking at the difference between the information that you're receiving and judgment. Okay. And even really when you start to receive information, how to decipher that information, how to kind of uh, go through the downline of the information to see, what you need to do to uh, get yourself in a position where you are reacting, uh, for lack of a better word, to the information in the best way that is going to create the most for you and those around you. So let's go ahead and just expand out today. And what we're going to do is we're going to expand our beings, not our bodies, as we are a infinite being. So we're going to get into that true infinite space of who we be. In that space, it makes it much easier to kind of decipher information and really get to what is true for you. So let's go ahead and put our barriers down, our barriers down, our barriers down, our barriers down. And let's go ahead and expand out and make yourself as big as the state that you're in. And you're going to go all the way out and all the way down and all the way up. Now, you don't actually have to expand your body, obviously, just your being, and you don't even have to do anything. You can just be present with the sound of my voice and it will expand you out. So go ahead and make yourself as big as the country that you're in, all the way out and all the way down and all the way up. And as big as the planet that we're all on, as big as planet Earth, bigger and faster and bigger and faster and bigger and faster and bigger and faster. And the universe, the multiverse, multiple universes, and times that by million, times that by million, times that by million, times that by million, all the way out to the space of who you be as the infinite being that you be. Awesome. Yeah. So today I want to really kind of talk to you about just what I experienced and how I dealt with that, and really kind of the way that I stood in a possibility that I knew was possible, and how I personally feel like I used that possibility to create a greater outcome. Now, one of the things I'm always talking about in doing this work, and really being a consciousness facilitator, but even more than that, just really being a person of awareness, is we are aware of all of the different realities existing at the same time, right? We are aware of energy, spaces, and consciousnesses that are kind of outside of who we be. Now, one of the things I'm aware of is based on where you're at. The energies that you choose actually creates the next moment, right? based on what's going on, based on how many people are around you. One of the things that they say in any type of I'm going to say in any type of scenario, it takes two people to buy into the situation as being real and true in order to solidify the energy as that, right? So if you have more people buying into a situation as being real and true, that's going to create more energy on creating that reality, right? So the more people you have buying into a situation, the more solidity that you have and the more energy, space, and consciousness that you have towards that reality. Now, one of the things I'm always talking about is being the space of change, right? Being the space of something different. And one of the things I think is so amazing about when you really get out of your point of view is you can start to see all of the different possibilities, right? Now, when you get out of the polarity of this reality, when you get out of the right and the wrong and the good and the bad and the um, the upset and the emotional intensity and the fear and all of that, because fear is just one possibility, right? Upset is just one possibility. There's another possibility existing, but if you buy into the fear, if you buy into the upset, if you buy into the anger, if you buy into the emotional intensity, then you kind of jump in that boat, right? You get in that energy and you start following that through. So I'm a big one, you know, uh, especially with my children, always talking about what else is possible, right? Um, we may be aware of something, but it doesn't mean that what we are aware of has to be something that is created, especially if we're talking about a future projection. So I went to Florida uh, this last week with my children. And if you listen to the show weekly, I didn't do a show last week. I didn't have a very good signal and I was starting to get sick. And here I am still lingering with this cold. But I was in Florida with my children. And basically we had kind of went and I kind of went with the awareness that I was going to use some time to just kind of decompress and sit by the ocean and really spend some time laughing and just having fun and being peace and ease. And so we came to Florida and we stayed at a beautiful, my most favorite beautiful little hotel retreat, whatever it is, place in Delray Beach, Florida, right on the ocean. They have wonderful food that they bring right to your room. I just love it. So anyways, we kind of decided we were just going to spend the week hanging out, being by the ocean, just really being, right? So I brought my daughters and one of my daughter's friends, and that's really pretty much what we did. And now I've really gotten to this point in this work where I really just choose things that really expand my body. And I had told myself, I was really going to spend some time just really being at peace and at ease with me. I wasn't going to try to do a lot of running around. I wasn't going to try to do a lot of entertaining, right? I wasn't going to really do much of anything, getting out of the coldness of Michigan. I really just wanted to have some peace and ease and some alone time and some quiet time and really just to decompress, right? And so going kind of with that energy when I had chose to fly there, in the past now I would have always chose flights that were early in the morning because that's kind of what people tell you, right? You got to get up and, rush to the airport and go early. One of the things I've really learned about my body is I don't like traveling early in the morning. Early in the morning travel just doesn't work for me. I really enjoy traveling later in the evening. And so I allow myself to do that, which really creates a ton of ease for me. So with that being said, on our flight home, we were obviously traveling in the evening. And so we had to get up and get checked out of the hotel room and kind of get moving for the day before I had to take the rental car back and get to the airport. So we had gotten up that morning, and that morning when I woke up, I was very aware that there was a really strange energy. I was really aware of this strangeness. Now, this is one thing that I have really learned in this work is, in the past, when you wake up and you feel something strange, what people generally do, and what I used to do in the past is I used to go to, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Right? What's wrong with me? What am I, what's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Right? Well, now I know that just because I perceive something weird doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just means that there's something that I need to be aware of. Now, in the past, and this kind of changes, I feel like the more and more you get out of definition, the more and more you get out of the right and the wrong and the good and the bad, the less and less this starts to feel like an intensity in your body. Now, in the past, when I would wake up and feel like there's a weirdness in the air, I would actually perceive that as a pain in my body. I would feel it as a pain in my body. Now what I understand now is when you start receiving information about something that's going on, or maybe something that's going to happen during your day, you'll start to receive that information into your body. And what happens here is if you have a lot of viewpoints, if you have a lot of solidification around what that is, you'll start to potentially perceive pain. Let's say if you have a chronic problem, like if you have a chronic problem with your stomach, maybe you have stomach aches all the time, okay? I'm going to explain this the best that I can. Now, what that would tell me is that you're receiving information into your stomach. Now, because when you were younger, probably, growing up, you always had stomach aches. And what would happen is you would say, my stomach hurts, and somebody would say, oh, what's wrong with you? And you would start to kind of process through the information, and they would come up with, I'm going to say, points of view or solidification about why your stomach hurts, right? Instead of just going, okay, so you're aware that there's an intensity going on in your stomach, okay, because there's two different things here. There's a stomach ache that actually is because you're receiving information into your stomach that's causing you to actually identify it as something that hurts. But I guarantee you, if you look at anything that you have as a chronic problem, okay, any chronic issue that you have, it's more than likely that there is information going in that you are not receiving. Somewhere you are aware of something that you're not acknowledging. And that could be you're not acknowledging it because you don't really know how to acknowledge it. You don't really have all the information about it. It could be that it's so solidified as a pain that you don't realize that it's just information. So for me, I used to struggle with chronic fatigue syndrome, okay? I had chronic fatigue syndrome and I had fibromyalgia. And I had pain all the time in my whole body. And, you go through the testing and they tell you, oh, you have fibromyalgia and here's the points on the body that hurt. And now for me, that was a key indicator, or now I realize it's a key indicator to, that's where you're receiving information out. And that's where you're looping in, making the information about you, right, and about something being wrong with you, instead of just realizing that you are receiving information into your body. And when you get out of the definitions about what that information is, because see, right now, if you have a lot of viewpoints about a lot of the things that you're receiving information about, that'll loop in your body as a wrongness, instead of just realizing that everything is information. And I know this might not quite make sense right this minute, but I feel like as I continue to talk here, you'll understand what I'm saying. So so I woke up in the morning and I was just feeling really weird, and I was aware that, okay, today's going to be a strange day with a lot of information for me. So I acknowledge that first and foremost. I didn't go to the space where I'm like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. I can feel like something's wrong with me or something's going to happen. No, I didn't do that. Okay. I acknowledged there was a strange energy moving through. And then I required more information about it. So we started about our day, and it was weird because as we were packing up our suitcases, now when we had checked in, and this isn't the first time I've been to this hotel, I've been here before. And when we had checked in, the lady who had checked us in, she told me, we actually had a conversation because she told me checkout was at noon. And I was like, wow, that's late. Doesn't seem right. And she's like, oh, yeah, yeah. And she said, you can bring your bags down if if you're not ready to quite go, because you can stay and use the pool and the hot tub and, the ocean all day, whatever. And so, we didn't actually have to our flight wasn't out until like 7:30 at night. And so we didn't really technically have anywhere to be for the day. So I was kind of taking my time getting ready to leave, and we got a phone call at like 20 minutes after, and the lady said, is there a problem? And I said, no. And she said, well, checkout was 20 minutes ago. And this was the same lady. And I said, I thought you had said that checkout was at noon. And she said, no, it's at 11. And anyways, and right there, it was like there was this weird disconnect energy for me. And all of a sudden I knew that there was somewhere that I had to be, and something that I was receiving that I had to be kind of laid up for. And so I was like, okay, no big deal. Like, I'm not gonna, no big deal. Like, we were already actually all packed anyways. We had already gotten a little rolly cart. We had all of our luggage on it. We were getting ready to go down and get our car from the valet and actually have it packed up, and we were going to be on our way anyway. So we were pretty much ready to be out the door. So as we were leaving the hotel, it was just like I could just feel this strange energy setting in. And I thought, okay, so where do I need to go to get more information? Okay, so I didn't start identifying it. Okay, that's key. You don't start identifying the weirdness that you're perceiving. You don't start coming to a conclusion about what that weirdness is. So I stayed with that. And my awareness was to go to this little place. We hadn't actually been there. We go there every time we go. It's this little crystal shop, and it's not far from the hotel that we stay in. And if you've been one of my retreats or anything, if you've been to Florida with me in any way, shape, or form, you have been to this little crystal shop. It's a strange little place, but I like to go there. Every time I go there, it gives me information. Okay, so I told the girls, let's go there. Let's go see what's going on. So we get there, and it's closed for lunch, which is common. And there's a little seashell place next to that. So I go to the seashell place, and we get some fun little necklaces from there. And I don't really necessarily like to buy the seashells for necessarily, but I don't mind the bead stuff that they have there. So anyways, my daughter's got a couple of bead necklaces and whatever. And while we're there, this man comes in, and he's talking to the owner of the place, and he's telling her, and it was like I couldn't help but listen to what he was saying, and the words that were coming out of his mouth didn't really make any sense. It was almost like he was speaking a different language, but he looked right at me, and he picked up this seashell. Now, and he was actually speaking English, and he was an English-speaking person, so he wasn't actually speaking a different language, because I know that there's a lot of different languages in that area, but he wasn't actually speaking a different language. And he picked up this seashell, and he held it up to his face, and he like looked right at me right before he did it, and he held it right over his eye, and he said, "If you look at this in a certain light, you can see the different dimensions that are existing." And it sent this like energy of kind of chills throughout my whole body. And then he started talking about how that shell was multi-layered, and he just kind of went on and on and on and on and on, and I didn't really pay much attention to the exact words he was saying after that, but that phrase really struck me. And so I thought, okay, that's information. Okay. And I thought, however he said that, there's a lot of power in frequency. And if you've been listening to my radio show for a while, and um, thank you for the feedback I've been getting from people kind of all over that haven't really ever done any other work from me or with me, and telling me really how just listening is changing things, because it's a frequency in which I deliver the information that I'm giving you that helps you change, right? And for me, I understand that everyone has a different gift in that. Everyone has a different frequency to offer. And so I I was just kind of sitting with that, and um, he he said to the lady at one point, he picked something up out of his pocket and he said, I've been carrying this seashell around with me for years, and now I gift it to you. And he set it on the counter and he walked out. And her response was, "Oh my gosh, where did you put that seashell down at? I don't want that in my shop. That man is weird. Something is wrong with him." And she went into all of this, um, blah 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 blah. And you know what? In the past, potentially, that may have been me. I may have had a lot of viewpoints about the weird things that man was spewing, um, but I didn't. I realized that he was bringing information. Everyone is bringing information, right? And she said, "Oh, he gave me the heebie-jeebies, and oh, now I feel all weird, and I hope he doesn't come back." And she was going on and on, and and I get that he kind of scared her, but if you go beyond the fear, right? Because truth, there wasn't anything to be scared of with that man. He just had a weird way of delivering information, right? So after we leave the seashell shop, we go down to the shop that's a little bit down the path there, um, to the crystal shop. And we go into the crystal shop and we're in there and we're looking around, and um, he comes in there and he comes over to me and he starts talking, and he's telling me about the the Leo moon rising, and he's going on and on, and I'm just standing there thinking to myself, like, I'm just looking for the information that I require. Like, just give me the information that I require, and then you can go about your way. Like, there's no need for upset. There's no need for uncomfortability. I'm standing in my awareness. I know that there's no danger. I know that there's no harm. And I know that when we go to the place where we feel fearful of certain types of people, what we do is we start putting our barriers up. And when we put our barriers up, we resist the information that they have for us. Okay. And so I stood there and I listened with my barriers down. And he was talking about dimensions, and he was talking about how the different parallels exist, and how when you stay silent, you can hear them. And I thought, well, that's an interesting point of view, because I never even really considered hearing them. I can tell that I can perceive them. I can tell that I can feel the different realities existing at the same time. I can feel the different possibilities of any outcome. But I never considered hearing them. And so he walked over after that. He kind of said a whole bunch of babble, and then he kind of walked away, and he went over to the counter and he was talking to the lady, and um, he says to her, I found this piece of quartz. I've been carrying it around in my pocket for quite a few years now. And he pulls it out and he says, here, I want to gift it to you. And she says, I don't want that. And he said, okay, well, that's cool. And he kind of tosses it on the counter, and he takes off, and he's out the door and he's gone. And she's like, oh, kind of the same thing. Where's that piece of quartz at? I don't want that in here. That needs to go. In kind of that same space. And I just held space, because I get it. I know exactly what was going on there. And so I take that information and we leave and we decide we're going to go pick up some lunch and um, go sit at the park and eat. So we actually went to the grocery store that was around the corner and got some fruits and some veggies and some things to eat. And we went and to the park and sat down at a picnic bench. And when we sat down, I noticed out of the corner of my eye that there was this guy that was standing in the gazebo not far from where we were sitting who was doing some sort of fancy jiu-jitsu moves or something by himself. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he's got a message for me too. And so me and my daughters and sat there and talked and we ate. And as I was keeping my eye on this man without a point of view, um, I could feel this, I don't know how to explain it, this information kind of coming off of him and I just thought, I'm just going to sit here and receive. I'm not going to have a point of view. I'm just going to sit here and receive. And so I did. And one of the things that I could really feel from him was there was like a energy of like, from the best I can describe it, it kind of felt to me like being aware of danger. And one of the things I could really feel coming off this man was that a lot of people were very scared of him. And so what that was actually doing was that was actually powering him, okay? Because so if I'm scared of something, I'm going to throw energy at it with this energy of fear, okay? Now, what that fear energy actually does is most oftentimes, especially if you're throwing energy of fear at a person, that person is going to respond energetically with kind of a either they're going to receive the fear and basically tell you that you don't have anything to be scared of, or they're going to match the fear, okay, with an intensity that feels kind of, now if you look at the match energy to fear, it's kind of got like almost like an anger intensity on it. So one of the things that I could feel coming off this man was there was a lot of people that were very fearful of him because people could say he's crazy, people could say he's um, off his rocker, right? Just like the man that had came into the other two shops that I was in, right? And so instead of really kind of solidifying that and protecting my children from that energy, okay, I actually started pulling and receiving from him. Now what that actually starts to create is it starts to change, because if enough people throw fear energy at someone, and people are aware that people are scared of them, for one thing, if there's not anything to be scared of about that person, um, it's going to make the person, it's going to create that no matter what, okay, is I guess what I'm getting at. Because if someone is scared of someone, um, the more energy of scared or fear that you throw at that person, the kind of the stronger that person is going to become. I hope that makes sense. I think you can see that. So I decided I'm just going to pull and receive energy from him for quite some time because I want to change that energy. Okay, I want to be the space of change. I want to take him out of being that scary person, and I want the real person of who he is on the inside to show through, which really isn't a scary person. It's just someone that doesn't have the same boundaries as other people. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm pulling and receiving, and 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 I'm literally watching this man change. And this is part of the stuff that I do when I'm in public. Now, for me, it doesn't mean that man isn't capable of doing something bad or wrong after that. What that means is, for one thing, I'm taking the charge off of it. I'm giving him a choice, because if people continually throw, just think about this for a second, if and I know that we've all been in a situation where maybe someone has said, you've been maybe in a relationship or something, and maybe you're currently even in a relationship where the person always says, oh, you're always angry at me, you're always angry, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, right? And you're like, nothing is wrong with me. Would you quit telling me that something is always wrong with me? Well, what that ends up starting to create is something is wrong with you, right? And it starts to solidify that there's something wrong with you, even though there isn't. But what happens is when you fight against that, when you're continually fighting against that energy, um, you actually start to create it. So what I was aware of with this man is this man was not truly a scary person, but he had been projected at for so long that that was the facade that he was creating himself as. Now, when I pull and receive that, what I can actually do is I can actually give him a different space. I can actually give him a different possibility. Now, that does not mean that he has to actually choose it. It doesn't mean that he has to choose a different possibility, okay? Because he can choose whatever he wants, but I can give him a different space. Now, whether he chooses that other space or not is really not up to me, but I can give him the possibility that that can be created. And I can also, kind of reduce the polarity he feels against other people by doing that, essentially creating him showing up differently for people. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I do that for a little while. We're sitting there eating, and I'm watching him still because I am aware, right? I am aware that he has had that projection for quite some time, and potentially he is capable of doing something. I don't know that I could say he was capable of harming anyone, but I am aware that he's capable of creating uh, not so amazing things, right? So I keep him in my awareness anyways, but I don't go to being fearful of him. So we pick up and, we get done, and I'm just keeping him in my awareness, and we pick up, throw everything away, and we decide we're leaving, and we walk by him, and as we're walking by, he kind of yells, he's kind of still in the distance, but he yells, "Thank you." And I kind of waved at him because I was intently, like, we made an energetic connection. And whether he knows exactly what I did or not, it doesn't matter. But what matters is he acknowledged the change that I gave him. I guess it doesn't even really matter, but it was kind of that amazing kind of that like acknowledgement that he got something out of what I just did. Now, regardless of what he was saying thank you to me for, I don't really know, but so anyways, so we go about and we get in the car, and kind of the rest of the day was kind of little kind of incidents kind of similar to that, where I was essentially continually being that space of change for really strange energy. And so I kept thinking, man, this is really a weird kind of day. What is this day telling me? What is this day telling me? So I had talked to my husband quite a few times during the day, and my husband was perceiving kind of the same energy. Now we're two different types of receivers, me and my husband are, but I could feel it in kind of his voice. I could kind of sense it in the things that he was saying. He was perceiving a lot of weirdness as well. And so I get to the airport, and um, we had just made it through security, and we had, like, I don't even know, like an hour and a half before our flight was getting ready to leave. And so, we had to return the rental car and all of that, which that was a whole nother experience. Should I share that? No, I won't share that one. I won't bore you with those details. But so um, we were at the airport, and I can kind of sense that just something just doesn't really feel right. And so we we go and we find somewhere to sit down, and my husband starts calling me. And I was like, kind of like, I had my carry-on thing, and when I was carrying one of my daughters as she was uh, getting ready to plug her phone in, and I kind of had a lot of stuff in my hands in my purse, and um, so my husband called me, and so I kind of like ended it, and then he called me right back, and that's really not like him. He doesn't really do that. And I could feel the urgency, and so like I quick like settled him. I called my husband back, and he's like, I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm having a panic attack. And I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. And as soon as he says that to me, now mind you, me and my daughter just kind of picked this area that there was like hardly anybody sitting, and there was like two, basically essentially we sat in two empty rows. My daughter sat across from me, and I sat on the other side, and there was virtually no one in the whole row I'm sitting in. And my husband says that to me, and I look over, and there's this guy that has sat down. Now when I sat down, I sat on the end, and I put my purse, and I had it like I had like a little carry-on bag. I had my blanket in it for my plane ride, and I'd set that in the seat next to me, and the guy sat right next to the seat next to me, and he sat down, and as he sat down, he was watching. I glanced over, and I happened to see that he's watching a video of people getting shot. And I know this because he's pointing his phone right at me. And I'm like, And I just got on the phone with my husband, and he says, I think I'm having a panic attack. And I'm like, okay. So without feeling any panic in my own body, I start asking my husband questions. Like, are you inside your body? What's going on? Can you feel your feet on the ground? Can you take a nice deep breath? And I close my eyes, and I can feel this really strange energy coming off the person next to me. And I open my eyes back up, and he's still sitting there, and he's watching videos on his phone, or a video on his phone, of people getting shot, and of people, like, it's zooming in on dead bodies. And I can hear my husband talking, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is where the weirdness is intensifying. I have choice. Okay, I have choice. First, I need to acknowledge that this man that is sitting down next to me is trying to manipulate me in some way, shape, or form, because there's absolutely positively no reason that this man needs to be sitting so close to me, pointing his phone at me, watching these videos. No reason. And so I'm listening to my husband on the phone, and I am acknowledging that this man that is sitting next to me is doing this for a certain purpose. So what I start doing is I start staring right at him, and I'm acknowledging that I am aware of what you're doing, and you are not going to scare me, and you are not going to put me into any type of energy of upset. And so I start pulling, and I start receiving, and I'm listening to my husband tell me that his chest feels heavy, and he's worried that he's having a heart attack, and he doesn't know what's going on. And this whole time I'm thinking, nothing is going to take me out of this space right here. Nothing. I am not going to choose upset. I am not going to buy into the upset that is going on around me. I'm not doing it. And so I'm pulling and receiving from this man, and I'm talking to my husband. And as I'm talking to my husband, I'm feeling him settle more and more and more into his body. And I'm feeling kind of the anxiety dissipating from him, because I am choosing that I am not only being a conduit for calming my husband down, but I am also being the space of peace and ease, no matter what is going on around me. And I'm just breathing. And I'm kind of watching it all. And in the past, something like that, even just from the man sitting down next to me watching that video, would have totally put me into a panic state, and it would have totally put me in a complete and total beyond. And I would have had all kinds of conclusions about what that meant, I should say. And instead, I stayed space. And instead, I really felt into, number one, what is his what is his agenda here? What's going on? Number one, do I need to be scared of this man? No. Is this man trying to scare me? Yes. Okay, well, that's cool. Whatever, you can watch all the videos you want. I'm not buying into it. And so I just started pulling and receiving and continuing to pull and receive. And I'm talking to my husband, and my husband's like, okay, I'm starting to feel better. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but he's like, the last hour, which is about how long we had been at the airport, he's like, I can't focus. I keep leaving my body. He's like, I'm very aware I'm leaving my body. He's like, is your flight on time? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I don't know. I have this weird feeling. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but it's not good. And I'm like, no, I've already checked in. Everything's fine. Everything is fine. And he's like, well, I can't stay in my body. I'm not sure what's going on, but I literally can't stay in my body. And I'm like, okay, well, are you required elsewhere? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, like, what if that's okay? And what if we can just move forward? So we end up talking for a while, and my husband's like, okay, I feel better. And the guy actually ends up getting up and leaving. And I get off the phone with my husband, and I tell the girls, I'm like, we really need to be in our awareness. I'm like, how are you guys feeling? And they're like, oh, we're fine, we're excited to go home, all is well. We talk for a little while, but I'm very aware that something is going on, and it's definitely trying to pull me into being upset. And so I start looking at that, and I'm like, okay, is there something else I'm required to do tonight? It's like, yes. Okay. Okay, so is there something else I need to be aware of tonight? Yes. Okay. So am I holding space for something really, really big tonight? And like, I can feel this, like, this amazing energy of like, okay, I need to be on. I need to be aware. I need to stay like in this space of peace and calm. And these words are echoing in my brain. Here, this space. And I'm thinking about this whole dimension thing, and I'm thinking about how I'm always talking about how there's different possibilities all existing at the same time, and basically the one that you choose is the one that you can create, and the more you stay in that space of choosing that, and now hearing it. And so I'm like, okay, I got this, like, it's all good, right? So we're at the airport waiting, and we go to board the plane, and there's just so much intensity. I can almost feel the anxiety coming off the plane. And I'm thinking, this is so strange. Like, what is this? And so as we get closer and closer, I can literally feel, like, it was almost like you could like cut it with a knife. And I kept asking, like, do we get on this plane? It was like, yeah, get on the plane. And I'm like, okay, well, we're still supposed to get on the plane, so I'm getting on the plane. So we get on the plane, and there's this woman that gets on the plane behind us shortly after she's boarding, and she's got this little baby and a little strapped onto her in a little carrier, and she goes to the seat behind me. I'm sitting in my seat, and she goes to the seat behind me, and the guy says to her, oh, great, a baby. And she kind of giggles and, kind of plays that off because, that's uncomfortable already because, everyone on the plane is not comfortable with her getting on the plane with the baby. And she says, he says, is she going to be good? And she's like, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. She's a baby. And she's like, hopefully she just sleeps. And he says, how old is she? And she says, she's 10 days old. And at that very moment, I see and hear 10-day-old baby died in crash. And for one split second, I felt a panic come over my body, and I thought, no, no, no. And all of a sudden, every single piece of everything that happened today all makes sense. I am aware that there is a possibility that the plane that I am on is going to crash. And instantly I know my husband is aware of the same thing. But what makes this situation even different is my husband is an airplane mechanic. My husband works on airplanes for a living. And my husband is in very much attunement with airplanes. He understands the system of an airplane better than anything else. Okay, and he is like, he calls himself, quote unquote, the plane doctor, because he knows what is going on for planes, and he can touch a plane and knows what's going on for a plane. Okay, he doesn't even really actually have to be in contact with the plane. And so I call my husband, and he's like, I'm leaving work. He's like, I can't stay in my body. He's like, I keep coming somewhere. He's like, I think I'm fixing your plane. And all of a sudden I knew. He's fixing the plane. That's why he can't stay in his body. And I'm on this plane because I'm supposed to be the space of something different. And for a few minutes there, you guys, I debated about getting off that plane. But I knew that I got this. It's all good. I can be the space of something different. So my husband tells me that he's looked at the flight tracker, and we're going to be going through some pretty substantial storms, and that he thinks that there's something wrong with the pressure gauge. And he's like, it's okay. Like, I'm leaving work. He's like, I gotta go. Like, I can't be here when this is happening. I need to be a different space. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I got this. And I said, okay, I love you. It's all good. I got this. I'm in peace and ease. And so I let him go. And I'm thinking, like, okay, so I'm in a row right now by myself. I have the three girls that are with me are on the opposite side of the plane across from me. And I look over at him, and I'm like, okay, we're going to be the space of something different. We're going to hold the space of something different, right? This is all good. And this woman comes and sits next to me, and she is just covered in anxiety, and she's shaking, and she sits down, and I'm like, oh man, now I'm gonna have to fight through this anxiety. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna fight through the anxiety. I'm gonna hold this space. And so I immediately grab essential oils in my bag, and I start applying them, and I have breathe, and I'm thinking, if I can just get her to breathe, she can too, like, because here we are, the two different realities existing. Here we are, right? And so I breathe, and I breathe some more, and I breathe some more, and we take off. And I think, this is it. Like, I am choosing to hold the space of peace and ease for this plane. And we got this. And so as we're flying, all of these different awarenesses are coming to me about my day, and about how realities work, and about how easily one thing can be led into the other. Yeah, I just want you to feel that. And let's just clear here for a moment. So all of the Shiki, stupidity, unconsciousness, anti-consciousness, energy, fog around, all of this, all of that, 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 all of that. Can we just choose to remove all of that from all of the universes? And can we just choose that now? And vaporize, 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 vaporize. And I'm thinking, I am standing in peace and ease. Like, this plane is covered in peace and ease. And no matter what, like, we got this. Like, we're safe. Everything's good. And then the turbulence starts. And you guys, we went through some some really, really rough patches there, and the plane was dropping altitude pretty fast, and there was a few times where I could feel the intensity of like, this is it, this is done, right? And I kept going back to that space of like, nope, nope, breathe, we got this, and it's all good. And when we touched down, when we landed, now during this time, I mean, there was chaos on the plane. There were people. It's kind of even hard to talk about, honestly, because the intensity of the fear that was going on in that plane was so thick that it was interesting. Let me just say that. And I just tried to really stay in that place of like upholding this ease. So when we landed, we had probably one of the best landings that I've ever been in a plane and even experienced. I mean, it was like you didn't even feel the the wheels touch the ground. And basically, the pilot came on and he said, "Well, folks, we made it." And everyone started screaming and yelling and clapping. And he said, "I'm not going to lie, that was a little bit scary, but we did it, and we're here. And yeah, enjoy enjoy Michigan." And that was all he said. And the lady in front of me noted, she said, "I'm pretty sure he thought we were going to die," because I was positive we were going to. And she said, "He didn't even tell us to watch the overhead bins when we opened the things." And she said, "I'm pretty sure we're all pretty much, we'd all kind of decided we were going to die." And I know that everyone hadn't decided that they were going to die, because I know that there was enough of us that were being that space of change that created something different. Now, so then going forward here, so I call my husband, and my husband tells me that he drove home, which I didn't think he was going to, because we do live an hour and a half from where he works. And he had drove home, and he said, "I don't remember my drive home at all." He said, "I'm pretty sure he said, "I kept thinking I was changing over systems. I was changing over systems. I was doing something with a pressure gauge, and I was, doing something with the thermometer." And he said, "I don't know what happened, but he said, and when I got home, I realized I was home, and I was looking at the flight tracker." And he said, "I see all that turbulence you were going through." And he said, "I was just holding space for you." And I have no doubt in my mind that my husband hadn't changed something right before we hit the really bad turbulence that actually helped that plane stay afloat. And I have no doubt in my mind that us holding space in that way, shape, or form actually created that plane having a successful landing. And I have no doubt in my mind that the whole day of experiences didn't lead me to exactly that moment. And knowing that having the day of having all those weird people who potentially would have taken me out of being me and really would have put me in a place where I felt unsafe could have created a completely different reality during that flight. Because if I would have gotten on that plane feeling unsafe, I'm not sure that I would be doing this radio program today. You know, I had a conversation recently with a client, and we were talking about um, how this type of work basically um, just gives you the ability to know what you know. This is not like, somewhere in our empath mind, I feel like we feel like, if we can get enough information, we can stop being so aware. But it's not about stopping being aware. It's about knowing what you know, and about being this space of change, so you can know what you know and change reality. You can help others change their reality. You can help yourself change reality. You can help the world evolve by not solidifying the polarity of this reality and actually giving this reality a different place to exist. Now, I know that this work isn't always easy. And even from my sickness, I mean, I know 100% now that this is all my body trying to process all of that information, because when I look back at my week, I know I was aware of something big happening. I just didn't know what it was. And I knew that I was going to require rest to create that. And when I looked at that little baby, when I stood up when we landed, I thought to myself, that baby's going to do something big. And I have no doubt in my mind that part of the reason why I did not choose that flight was because I needed to be there. Because there's something greater that I was protecting that is way greater than even me. So today I just shared some of my conscious experience, and I want to share that from the viewpoint where I hope that that helps you in the different experiences that you have, and realizing that there is nothing wrong with you, ever. You are receiving information from everywhere, all the time. And if your body is having a hard time processing that, I would love to either help you or even give you the information that you require to do something different. And I almost forgot to add one of the key parts. I feel like we landed 33 minutes early. Now, I've flown a lot, and if you're a frequent flyer, you know that very rarely do you land early. And if you do, maybe it's 10 minutes. But 33 minutes was a very, very significant number. I felt like 33 minutes early, that's quite a large time frame that we really literally, I feel like we kind of skated through some time and space while we were dropping in the air several times. And when I turned my phone on to text my older daughter and my husband that we had landed, when I sent the text messages, it was 11:11 p.m. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that it felt significant in my story. So right now I'm in the middle of some amazing upgrades for Expand Your Reality, and I'm currently looking for a few more people who are looking to exponentialize their awareness in a way where you can stop buying into the upset and start really being the space of change that you be. And if that's you, please find me. You can find me on Facebook. Expand Your Reality is my Facebook group you can join, or you can go to my website at www.jamie-bates.com and contact me through that. And I'm really just looking for who are those who are looking to really be the space of something different. And if you're done doubting your abilities about what you actually know, please go sign up for my free series and be on the lookout, because I'm going to have lots of new free stuff available for you. So thank you so much for listening to me today and allowing me to share my experience of really truly being the space of something different and knowing what I know without having a judgment. So thank you so much for listening to me today, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.
You have been listening to Expand Your Reality with your host, Jamie Bates. Thank you for listening.